this is an iHeart podcast. Guaranteed human.
Friday. Kick off the Winter Olympics in style with the opening ceremony from Italy, featuring a special performance by Mariah Carey. Celebrate the greatest athletes from around the globe as they come together to go for gold.
Lindsey Vonn, sensational!
The opening ceremony of the Winter Olympics.
Ilya Malinin.
Redefining the sport.
Friday at 8 Eastern, 7 Central on NBC and Peacock.
Body Bags with Joseph Scott Moore. One of the biggest problems that I have encountered as a death investigator is a phrase that it's so common that people say this. Both families and friends of a deceased individual, they will always say, "I cannot believe they are gone." The reason many people cannot believe that someone is gone, I think at a base level, is because they didn't witness the death, or they were not physically there to put their hands on the remains of their loved one. It's a very tactile event. I think it goes back in our DNA for centuries to verify something. I want to update you on a case today involving the life and death of precious Harmony Montgomery. We've done an episode on body bags relative to Harmony, but there's some newer information that I kind of wanted to address, and it does specifically deal with this idea of I can't believe she's gone, and the reason why is that we still don't have her body. I'm Joseph Scott Morgan, and this is Body Bags. Dave, I'm glad you mentioned this case to us for an update. First off, I think for the entire time of me covering this case on Law and Crime and on Court TV, and then, of course, with Nancy, I've been furious the entire time. Anytime Harmony's name would arise, all I could see is that precious little face wearing glasses who was blind in one eye, and that was totally dependent upon the adults in her life to not just nurture, but just to provide for basic care for her. And she was just failed miserably, not by the monster who has been held responsible now for her death, but the other adults in her life, as well as government entities that should have done something, and they failed her.
And it's the failure, Joe, that is the reason for today's update, because just a few days ago, Harmony Montgomery's mother, Crystal Sorey, has filed a wrongful death lawsuit against the state of New Hampshire, alleging systemic failures in the state's child protection system. Crystal Sorey was not able to file the lawsuit until Harmony was actually declared legally dead, which happened last March. Since then, Adam Montgomery, Harmony's father, has been convicted for killing 5-year-old Harmony in 2019. The lawsuit seeks monetary damages and answers from the state of New Hampshire surrounding Harmony's disappearance and death. Crystal Sorey's lawyer is well known in New Hampshire. His name is Russ Riley. In May of this year, he won a $38 million judgment against the state for David Meehan, one of hundreds who say they were physically and sexually abused in the state's youth detention center. Now, during Adam Montgomery's murder trial, information on the DCYF reports came out, and Crystal Sorey's lawsuit says that at least half a dozen family members, friends, neighbors alerted the agency about Harmony's safety and living conditions between July 29th and October 5th of 2019. Adam Montgomery's own uncle, Kevin Montgomery, called DCYF several times on July 29, 2019, after seeing Harmony with a really bad black eye and finding out that Adam Montgomery had beaten the little girl. After talking to DCYF, they were kind of arguing with him over his dates, the dates that he remembered. And he finally got so frustrated, he said, "This is why children die." Adam Montgomery's own grandmother, Helen Montgomery, she reported to DCYF a few days after Kevin did in August of 2019, saying that she believed Harmony was going to end up like Bella Bond. Now, Bella Bond was a 2-year-old who was found dead on Deer Island in Boston Harbor in 2015. It was a huge story at the time. The boyfriend of Bella's mother was convicted of second-degree murder in that case in 2017. So mentioning that in the context of, with what's going on with Harmony meant something. A caseworker responded in a report that he had spoken with Adam Montgomery's drug counselor and had seen an injury to Harmony's eye, which the family said came from her brother hitting her with a toy lightsaber. Adam Montgomery got custody in February of 2019. Harmony was dead by December, according to the lawsuit. And the lawsuit, of course, blames the state.
But yet we don't have Harmony's body, Dave. All these years later, what year did her case start? It was 2019.
That's when she went missing.
Yeah.
But she wasn't reported missing for 2 years.
Yeah, that's right. And so the genesis of this thing goes back to 19.
Yeah.
Right.
And the part that is so frustrating, upsetting, and you'll have that moment where in 1 second you have tears and in another second you have blind rage because of what happened to this child who, more than most, depended on the adults in her life. More than most, she needed that assistance. And more than most, we see the pictures of her with her glasses, and we know the uphill battle she has. And we know that you look at her on some of the pictures and she's smiling so big, and you're thinking that the world that she was living in, there was nothing to smile about. Yes, she was. And then I remember the first, Where's Harmony? I remember those cases. We were looking for her when the story broke.
There was a hashtag out for a long time that was called Where's Harmony?
Yeah. And it started when her mother actually, and without really digging the deep hole in this, Harmony's mom and her biological mother and father both have drug issues. And in many of those cases, one person or the other will get sober or have moments of sobriety and have custody, which is what happened with Harmony. She became a victim of her own parents. Her own mother was trying to get sober and trying to get her life back, but her mother did not have custody, did not have physical custody of Harmony. Her father, Adam Montgomery, had physical custody of Harmony Montgomery. And her mother was in Florida, and Harmony's father was in, I was going to say the New England area, but for the most part, around Boston.
To the north, they spent time in New Hampshire, and then they were kind of shuttled between. He had spent a lot of time in Massachusetts, but they were in New Hampshire. Right. And oh, by the way, he was taking grand care of her as they lived in a Chrysler Sebring convertible. Yeah. So way to go.
Yeah. Well, but
and I'm saying that in a snarky manner, but way to go directed at him, and also directed at the people that should have been keeping track of this already train wrecked situation with this poor child. They should have known better. No one kept an eye on her at all. And that's what's so frustrating for me. Nancy talks about family children services all the time. I do too. If you think she's had some experiences, I've had probably double the number of experiences she has had as a practitioner, because I see the end result of it. I have for years and years. And you look and you say, all it would have taken was a phone call, or all it would have taken was a home visit. And all it would have taken is just an ounce of accountability, where you're holding somebody responsible, and that didn't happen. So whatever beating she took along the way and neglect, there are other people other than Harmony's father that had the hand on the wheel in this, Dave.
I think that's an important point, that there were other people involved. The evil that is Adam Montgomery, and the reason for the update is that Adam Montgomery was convicted by a jury of his peers for killing his daughter, Harmony.
Yeah.
A judge ruled her dead because we don't have her body. Even now, Joe, we still do not know where the body of Harmony Montgomery is. We have never had it.
And that was I think that's obviously Adam Montgomery has been, in fact, convicted and is cooling his heels in the penitentiary right now. But a bigger piece to this as a follow-up was that the judge has, in fact, declared her dead. And listen, people go missing. They have for years and years. And the court will, in fact, have to declare them dead simply as a result of their absence. They're not reappearing. And that's when we're talking about adults, Dave, most of the time. Now we're talking about a handicapped little girl who did not possess the ability to take care of herself at all in these harsh New England winters, that they experienced up there. And that's what's so heartbreaking about this. And we have this other circumstantial information that comes from Adam Montgomery's girlfriend that was domiciled, in the car, if we can say that, and various
homeless shelters.
Yeah, exactly. And then and they would migrate around. But what she bore witness to was, she was aware that Harmony had died. There's no doubt. I mean, let's just say it plainly. He had knocked hell out of her for a long, protracted period of time, and these events had been borne witness to. And it was that fatal blow. I think it was a fatal blow that occurred in the back of that car, because she, let's face it. I mean, she's having to live in the back seat of a 2-door car, a convertible, in the winter, and she soiled herself, and she had a problem with this. And a lot of little kids do. It's the nature of being a little kid, but how much more so for her? You can imagine, for folks in the audience that have been part of an abusive situation as a child, like I was, you're always nervous. You don't know what's going to happen next. You think that the hand is going to be drawn back on you and you're going to be knocked around again. And so for a little child like this, they're met with anger at every turn. And so that's the situation she had to indwell. But the thing about it is that people talked about Harmony as this little angel, that she was always happy and sweet. And, that, I use the analogy of throwing a brick through a stained glass window. Why would you do that? And in her case, that's what happened. She died in the backseat of that car.
Friday. Kick off the Winter Olympics in style with the opening ceremony from Italy, featuring a special performance by Mariah Carey. Celebrate the greatest athletes from around the globe as they come together to go for gold.
Lindsey Vonn, sensational!
The opening ceremony of the Winter Olympics.
Ilya Malinin.
Redefining this sport.
Friday at 8 Eastern, 7 Central on NBC and Peacock.
When Adam Montgomery decided to fly into what seems to be a consistent rage with this child, he didn't try to mask it. He struck her in the face and about the head over and over and over again. And actually in front of this witness that it turns out he was married to, I think, for a time.
Yep.
And she bore witness to this, and at no shame.
So you've got Adam Montgomery driving the car, Kayla Montgomery in the passenger seat, in the back, Harmony Montgomery. Harmony had an accident. As we mentioned, she is a special girl and has some special needs. She allegedly had an accident in the car, and according to Kayla Montgomery, she and Adam had just scored some heroin, and they were on their way to Burger King. I don't know if they had used the heroin at this point or not, but they had I'm assuming they did, because otherwise it wouldn't be in the story. But when Adam is driving the car and he attacks Harmony, she's in the back seat, he's in the front seat driving, and he attacks her for having an accident. And he beats her about the face, not once. It's like you're driving down the road and he hits her not once, not twice, but 3 different times. He beats his 5-year-old special needs daughter who can't see out of one eye, and he beats her so bad that the last time he hits her, he tells Kayla, the stepmom, I think I really hurt her this time. I think I did something. That's when he crushed her face with his bare hands, his fist. He hit a 5-year-old special needs girl in the backseat of the car while he's driving so hard that he knew he had killed her.
And they continued on to Burger King.
Yep.
That's, where they were headed. And you know what's key in that statement, Dave, to me? If I'm trying to figure this out forensically and trying to understand the trauma, and it's that quote. It's not so much, I think I really hurt her. It's, I think I really hurt her this time, which implies that this is an ongoing issue. And as we find out, he has been known to strike this child specifically for this reason, for soiling herself. And let's just break it down. And look, little kids, you don't have to have special needs issues. It's compounded, potty training and all that. And just so that we can paint the picture, this guy can do no better for his kid than to provide a domicile in a Chrysler product.
Right.
That's the domicile, okay? And the child probably from moment to moment doesn't know where they're going to go. When's the next time I'm going to be able to go to the potty? And she's faced with that decision. And can you imagine? And I've tried to think about this legitimately from this perspective, because it's this kind of learned or responsive behavior that she's going to have when you see people that have been abused as a result, particularly when they're being struck. If there is a long line, all the abuser has to do, it doesn't even take emotion. You can turn and glare at them, and particularly with a child, a 5-year-old child, and it gets their attention very, very quickly. And this is the thing, and this is what breaks my heart about it. This child who is forced to live in this Chrysler product is living in this small space. And just so you know, the Sebring is a 2-door car. It's not a 4-door. It's a cramped space. She's occupying the back seat. There is an awareness of fear. It just kind of permeates this environment. And all he has to do is turn around. And so what does she do? I TT'd on myself or whatever it was. However they became aware, maybe it was a smell. I have no idea. Yeah. But when we think about this, I hurt her this time. When you're at autopsy and you're trying to understand trauma to anyone, but let's just think about Harmony. There'll never be an opportunity to do an autopsy, I doubt, very seriously. But you look at this progression of trauma where a child is initially struck, that heals, and then you strike them again, and you have these kind of overlapping, maybe focal areas of hemorrhage throughout the body. That's one of the reasons when I instruct police officers, and particularly those that work crimes against children, we have a chart that we use where I teach them about contusions and bruises and that sort of thing, because you can learn a lot. It's almost like the rings of a tree in a horrific way, but depending upon what the status of a contusion is, you can get an idea that there has been a progression, not so much a progression as like a continued series of abuses.
Then they could find out. See, one of the things the police found during their investigation was that in July of 2019, during that summer, that Adam Montgomery had admitted to family members that he hit Harmony so hard in the face that he blackened her eye. And rather than tell them that she fell down or hit it, he actually told them, I hit her. And so when police were investigating and talking to family to corroborate some of the things they were being told, family said, yeah, he hit her so hard it blackened her eye. You'd be able to figure that out if you had the opportunity to look at her later to find out if this was a regular pattern of abuse.
And that I'm glad you brought up the blackened eye, because it troubles me when you have and if anybody's ever broken their nose, for instance, or seen someone that has had some kind of plastic surgery, say a rhinoplasty or something like that, they'll have bilateral blackened eyes, and one of the reasons is that there's a fracturing that's going on, and the floor of the skull is very thin. It's when you get behind the eyes, that area is, and I've had forensic pathologists describe it as eggshell like, and so and I've seen this done, you can actually take a skull and a flashlight, and if you can position it just right, and there's some dissection that has to go on, but just trust me with this, you can shine a flashlight up through the floor of the skull and it is translucent almost. That's how thin that bone is. And so how much more so for a 5-year-old if you're dealing with repeated strikes.
Friday. Kick off the Winter Olympics in style with the opening ceremony from Italy, featuring a special performance by Mariah Carey. Celebrate the greatest athletes from around the globe as they come together to go for gold.
Lindsey Vonn, sensational!
The opening ceremony of the Winter Olympics.
Ilya Malinin.
Redefining the sport.
Friday at 8 Eastern, 7 Central on NBC and Peacock.
We're in 2024 now, and I really thought that by this time we were going to find Harmony. I thought that there would be a breaking news story that, and it's typical, they go to a shot on TV, you see a bunch of trucks lined up. And you say, we can't confirm yet, but we know that the police are working this area. Unnamed sources now tell us that they're on a recovery. Well, and as horrible as that is, I thought that maybe that would happen and we would have more answers. But my friend, I don't have really any more answers today than I did.
You're right. We don't know. We don't know where her body is, but we know more about the story of what they did with Harmony's body after he beat her to death in the back seat of that car, and they had car trouble.
And then being placed in a duffel bag to be transported.
They referred to it, they being everybody involved in the case, the Burger King beating, because they were on their way to Burger King, and that's when she had the accident in the back seat, and Adam Montgomery beat her. He beat her regularly, which goes beyond. I point that out, just in case somebody ends up in prison with him, to remind them what he did to a 5-year-old by the way, a 5-year-old girl who had special needs, blind in one eye, and he beat her regularly. And the last time he beat her, he actually said to his girlfriend, Kayla, I think I really hurt her this time. I think I really hurt her this time.
This time, yeah.
I think I did something. And they said Harmony, and Harmony made moaning sounds for the next 5 minutes in the backseat of that car, Joe.
Right. Yeah.
And then it stopped. And
I'd love to say something about that. And this is just me, kind of projecting, I think, to a great degree. The reason she was moaning, obviously it was in pain, but she's slowly losing consciousness, because here's what I think. If Adam Montgomery had been striking this child as violently as has been reported, it would not surprise me, Dave, that she had already had some kind of indwelling cerebral event that had occurred, maybe kind of a slow bleed. And that moaning that we're talking about, I've often wondered, did she throw up as a result of it? Because sometimes with head injuries like this, with these kind of closed head injuries where pressure is building up, you'll see a person violently react. There'll be an onset of nausea, vomiting, this sort of thing. And then they'll lapse into a coma. And that moaning, kind of accompanies this. They're slowly becoming nonverbal, Dave. So I hope I've painted kind of the picture that she's drifting away in the backseat of that filthy car out in the middle of the street. And that's where she met her end. People have always wondered and will continue to wonder where she is. I have held that I think he could tell us at least where he deposited her. And I have thought, and this is the cynic in me, I think I've thought that perhaps he was using this as leverage to get something better, to say, yeah, you move me from this section of the jail to this section. If you do that, I'll tell you, because he's not going to get out. At least I hope no right-thinking group of people would allow him to skirt any part of his sentence at all. But I've often thought that he would try to leverage that information, almost like a serial killer does, where they're always saying, yeah, well, I was involved in this one, even though they might not have been. He was involved in this. He knows where her body is. And what's the name of that place outside of Revere? Massachusetts. It's like the kind of swampy area. It's like a reserve that's down there. A saltwater marsh is what it comes down to. And our thought was and has been that he was allegedly familiar with that area, and he took what remained of her after all of those years, and after him literally carrying her little body around in various conveyances. He had her in a gym bag, duffel bag type of thing.
Well, I was looking at that
time.
Because, when we were talking about that marshy area, I'm looking for the name of it right now, and it escapes me, but his girlfriend provided the information. When you look at Adam Montgomery being in charge of his daughter, Harmony, and he had a girlfriend, Kayla, who was living with him, and she was working at this place or that place to support them and their drug habit from time to time. And they did live in a number of different places, not just homeless shelters and their car. But her daughter, Harmony, would talk to her mother from time to time. They would Skype or what have you. And that ended. That just kind of stopped.
Abruptly,
and it took time before she ever actually said anything, because she was not in a position to actually say much because she wasn't living within the law, apparently. Anyway, it was 2 years before anybody said, I don't know where Harmony Montgomery is. And that's why, if you remember, Joe, when we first covered this, I thought that police are out there at this house looking for this little girl who's gone missing. She's special needs. Let's help find her. Let's get the word out right now. And then as the story broke, we're like, wait a minute. She didn't just leave? When was the last time somebody saw her?
Yep.
And it really became, as we were covering the story, it's like unbelievable.
Yep.
A 5-year-old goes missing for 2 years?
With special needs.
Yes.
Yeah.
And anyway, that's where it began. And anyway, eventually, Kayla, the girlfriend, they've kind of got her, they being investigators, they know the information is there. They know the information, the truth can be had. They just have to lean the right way on the right person. Yep. And they were able to separate Kayla, the girlfriend, from Adam long enough to get the story out, to know what happened on the trip to Burger King, about her groaning, moaning, and her breath ending in the back seat of that filthy, nasty Chrysler Sebring Yep. And then she talks about that they moved a couple of different times from this place to that place. They put her body on the side of the road. The car broke down.
Yep.
And imagine you've got your dead 5-year-old daughter in the backseat of the car, and your car breaks down, and you grab a duffel bag, an Under Armour bag, and cram her body into that. And then go
under that intense spotlight, because if you break down the middle of the road, authorities are going to show up sooner or later.
Yeah, buddy.
And so this is how cold he is. Reptilian, I would describe it as. He's able to manage this sleight of hand, and that was one of the biggest things I think that the defense had raised in this case was, how was he able to do this? Well, it's because I think that he's used to violence and he's used to nefarious activity, and so it doesn't faze him necessarily like it would anybody. And you go back to that statement. What was it he said? I think I hurt her.
Yeah.
This time. I think I really hurt her this time, implying, of course, that she's been hurt multiple times, but this time I think I really hurt her. And so it's not a far leap to think that he could transport that, or transfer her body from the interior of the car into the bag. And then just, I'm here with my family, car's broken down. We got to beat feet down the road, try to find a solution to all of this. And as it turns out, they begin transporting her body around to these various locations. He's even taken her to work in a restaurant adjacent to a walk-in cooler, or placed in a walk-in cooler while he's working there. Listen, if you and I tried to pitch this in Hollywood, they wouldn't bite. They'd say, this is ridiculous. This happened.
Nobody is that evil, Joe. You got to rewrite this. There's no way. Nobody's going to believe this.
Yeah, I know. And so,
5-year-old, come on. At least don't make her handy. Come on, man.
I know. It's just too far over the top, but, stranger than fiction, right? And so you look at this, and it's an important piece here, obviously, that he's been convicted. And my fear is that with Harmony, like so many other children, we're going to forget her. And I don't want to. I mean, and there's a lot of other people that don't want to. We spent a lot of time covering this case, and it's not our investment of time. I'm going to be here anyway. But this case, like it did with so many other people out there, really struck a nerve. And it's important that the courts have acknowledged that she now has officially been declared deceased. That's going to enable, I think now, as a result of this action by the court, enable her mother to take certain other steps in her life moving on. I don't know that this person will ever roll over on her whereabouts, because I reflect back to that body cam footage that they had of him in the road with the detectives. And, the detectives saying, look, we're not trying to jam you up. This is just, there's a missing little girl. We want to know. He's completely resistant to it. Mm-hmm. It's about self-preservation. And I'm thinking, well, he's been found guilty now. He's incarcerated. He doesn't have detectives there pressuring him. What would be the motivation for him to ever say where he deposited? I just hope that at some point in time, maybe in the correction system, when he's in this environment, he's going to let his guard down. He's going to say something to somebody. But here's the real rub with this. If he took her remains to the saltwater marsh area, Dave, as you know, because I know you live by the Atlantic for a period of time, and I've lived around the Gulf of Mexico, saltwater marshes are dependent upon the tides. So as they rise and they fall, they also draw out. I don't know, and the girlfriend alluded to the fact that she was removed from the duffel bag and had the bag that she was placed in, interestingly enough, was a maternity bag from a local hospital, which again is a real, the irony's so thick you could cut it. This precious little life, her body that had already would have decayed significantly, he had rendered her down. The girlfriend had put forth this idea that he had dismembered her and took her, the totality of her, what was left of her components, placed them in a bag. If he did deposit her in that saltwater marsh, she could have been drawn out to sea. and not to mention any kind of aquatic life that's in there. I don't know that we'll ever have her physical remains, but I do know this. Adam Montgomery is incarcerated. He has been found guilty of Harmony's murder. I just hope that her life will mean something, particularly to those that are charged with the awesome responsibility of watching over those that can't take care of themselves. Little kids out there just like Harmony, let this please be a warning, be a benchmark, be a monument that stands in her memory to watch over those who are helpless and that are very vulnerable to the world around them, because the world is in fact filled with monsters. I'm Joseph Scott Morgan, and this is Body Bags.
This is an iHeart podcast. Guaranteed Human.